The kids that are going to succeed in the future are the kids that know how to use generative AI and know how to use AI to help them move forward. They can start a business in a weekend or create a YouTube channel and have these AIs make videos for them. Or there's so many things that generative AI can do for kids at this point that can absolutely change their lives. I think it's absolutely paramount that kids today learn how to use generative AI.
Welcome to the Unrulr podcast. My name is Aaron Shorn. I'm head of community and growth. And this is a podcast where we have conversations with um, educators and learners who are not just innovators, because that's an overused word, but people really doing the work of returning agency to learners. And I have the honor and privilege of getting to have a conversation with the Austin Scholar, a teenager embarking on changing education and really being able to share with families, share with parents and students, um, ways in which we can learn in the 21st century. Um, it's so good to see you. It's great to meet you for the first time. I'd love for you to kind of start by
Meet you
introducing
too.
yourself and kind of what you're working on, and then we can dive in from there.
Yeah, for sure. So, my name is Austin Scholar. I am a 17-year-old high school student, and I have basically been in alternative education for my entire life. I haven't had an actual teacher or sat in an actual classroom since I was in fourth grade. And I have used adaptive apps to learn and spent my afternoons learning life skills. And I've had such a transformative and pretty unique experience in the education space. And I wanted to be able to share my journey and all of my learnings with all the other parents who want to help their kid thrive, especially in this changing world of with all these new technologies coming out. There's so many opportunities for parents to really give their kid the best chance of success. And so I started a newsletter and Twitter account, Austin Scholar, to kind of share my journey and share my insights on how to help parents help their kids.
To begin with, what's your philosophy of education?
Well, I am I love math. I'm a math person. And so I love learning sciences and just the actual like logic and math behind how we learn. And so there's so many studies out there and just very scientific and data driven stuff that really just shows how we as humans can learn better, more efficiently, faster, more thoroughly. And so I really when I'm learning something new, when I'm doing an AP class or something like that, I make sure that I um, focus on these learning sciences and like spaced repetition, mastery based learning, and like all of those types of things to kind of boost my learning. And I know a lot of my other friends who focus on mastery learning and all these other like retrieval practice, elaboration, all these really interesting things that really help kids and people in general learn. That is definitely one of the most fascinating and interesting parts about just my learning philosophy, I think.
I love it. I mean, I think the Twitter account really represents um, ways in which learners can be at the center, right? And
For
there's
sure.
education is filled with buzzwords, um,
Hmm.
deeper learning, project-based learning,
Yeah.
that lose meaning over time. And one of the buzzwords that I use all the time is learner-centered, but it
Yeah.
loses meaning. For you, what does learner-centered mean?
Okay, so my explanation is also kind of buzzword driven, but I feel like if you really grasp it like that, you can actually use those meanings. But I think the number one thing for learner-centered like education is that the kids and the students take ownership over their education and they decide, I am going to learn this. I want to learn this. It may be hard. I'm going to struggle, but this is my life and I'm going to do it because the passivity that that is the education system at the moment, just sit in a classroom, listen to a teacher. I have to go to this class. I have to do this. It doesn't foster like a love of learning, or B, actual deep learning that I feel is like the most important thing. And so having the kid really take ownership over their own education is what I believe is learner-centered education.
I love that shift from passive to active, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes it's almost like a spiritual moment, like when you're like, I
Yeah.
own this. I have agency over this. Was there like a moment where that clicked for you, or had that always been embedded and you just refused to get kind of colonized by, the modern education system?
Yeah. Um, so my dad is a big tech guy. He loves he loves using technology in a bunch of different ways. And so I um, used an online adaptive app when I was in first grade, I think. It's called Dreambox, and it's basically teaches math in like a gamified mastery based way. And I loved it. Well, I loved it eventually. Math, getting to love math has been a journey for me, but I basically, um, because of that, I from since first grade, even when I was still in standard school, I spent my time at home learning, and I even though it wasn't my favorite thing in the world to do, I went home and I did it because I knew that eventually I would be grateful that I did, if that makes sense. And so I think it was kind of I didn't know what I was feeling. I didn't know what I was doing, but I think that was kind of the start of my ownership over learning was coming home from spending 8 hours in school and deciding to do more math, do my dream box, do my 30 minutes. And I think it grew, especially after I transitioned to alternative education. And it's my school, it's very unstructured. I go to Alpha, and it's in a small private school in Austin. And it's the day is very unstructured. You can basically choose when and what you're going to work on throughout the day. And so you could choose to not do anything. You could choose to sit there and stare at your screen, scroll, not even look at the content that you're supposed to be learning. But I found that when I had the choice to do it, I wanted to because I felt like it was it made me feel powerful when I did. And so it wasn't a specific moment, but a gradual um, journey to really take ownership and love to learn.
Can you describe, you said it made me feel powerful. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So um I really feel like like when I learn something new, it's like I am like I'm working towards like a superpower kind of. My favorite I love Marvel. My favorite hero is Iron Man because it's a normal guy. He's a normal guy who chooses to use his knowledge to do cool things and to build a freaking suit of armor. And I think that's absolutely insane. And so it's like when I'm making the choice to learn these new things on my own, it's like I am working towards my armor, my masterpiece, my big thing that I um, am working towards. And so it just makes me feel like I'm doing something that's bigger than myself, and that when I what I learn um, can make me stronger and kind of like a superpower. So yeah.
I love that. I mean, I remember going to high school in Georgetown, Texas, not far away from Austin,
Yeah.
and like going to coffee shops in Austin and reading like Foucault and Arendt and pretending I was smart and being on this journey of like knowledge and discovery, right? Like that
Hmm.
idea of the more you know, the more you know nothing, and
Yeah.
how turning yourself into a sponge is really really powerful. I want to flip the
Hmm.
script. What do you want to talk about? What questions do you have, or what do you want to kind of
Yeah.
share out with the world?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess when you talk about like learner centered and like all these learning sciences, mastery based learning, and all of that, I think the number one method to learn those kinds of things is to teach kids to learn how to learn. And I think that that is the most powerful thing anyone can have is to know how to learn. And so I think that kind of stems from, um, well, first they have to take ownership, right? They have to decide to learn how to learn. But then they transition to actually creating plans and ways that they can master these concepts and learn these ideas. And so I think something I wanted to share is just about creating a learning plan and a facilitator of learning a concept. And so basically, what a learning plan is it is a it's a way to it's your own personal plan to learn a topic, obviously. Um, but it's a basically you start with the concepts that you want to learn and you break them down into small pieces. And then from there you say, okay, these are the things I need to read or watch or these exercises I need to do to learn these concepts. And then once you feel like you've learned the concepts, you create your own test to pass. And that's like this big project or this proof of learning, basically. And that can be I'm going to write a 500-word blog post about this book that I read and how it connects to society or today or something like that. Or I'm going to um, make a video on I'm going to like animate a video for learning this math concept. And it's these projects that can help show that you do know these concepts and you have mastered them. And then basically that's kind of like what a learning plan is. And then at the end of the once you've completed all of the objectives and completed all the mastery tests, test to pass, then you can then you can say I've learned this topic, and you can do like kind of a big project. Like I'm going to, um, I want to get an internship in this topic, and I'm going to submit the work that I've done in all these mastery tests, these blog posts, these podcasts, these videos that I've already written. And it's basically like you're creating a resume on the topic as you're learning. And I think that that is really powerful and something that's really exciting for kids to do because they have something that they're working towards. It's not this like imaginary thing. They're like, I want to get this. I want to get this internship. I want to do this and I need to become knowledgeable. I need to master all of these concepts and build up my resume and get all these projects in order to do that. And so I think that that is kind of like the epitome of what learn like self-paced learning and learning on your own and taking ownership really is.
That's amazing. I have a question. I think sometimes, so just coming from my own experience of like, right now I'm teaching myself web development, and um, I think one thing that I've been struggling with is I think at a certain level, it's hard to know what you don't know. Like I struggle with trying to find those topics of like, what do I actually need to learn? What are the skills that I need to build? Um, from a high level, but also at like a granular level. Like, what are the like individual frameworks I need to learn? Because I think once I have like a target of like, okay, this is what I need to learn, it's relatively straightforward to find a path to build those skills. But I think the hardest part is identifying those from the beginning. So how do you recommend kind of like working backwards and like finding those like chunks that you need to focus on?
Yeah. So this is a trick I learned from my dad, but basically find identify who is the number one expert in your area. Find the number one person, like the person who's the most in the entire world about this topic, and uh, look at all of the things that they've written and all of the things that they've said, or like look at their past interviews. Um, and the next time that they write a piece or that they give an interview, what you have to do is you have to be able to predict what they're going to say or what the piece is going to be about. You have to say this person is going to write was going to say this. And if you come across something that you're like, I don't know what this person would say about this, then you kind of have a topic that you should be working towards and working towards learning. And if you can't find an expert in that topic, something else that you can do is obviously you can ask ChatGPT what are the things I need to learn about this topic. But if you want to do it without AI, just being on Twitter and curating a Twitter feed that is a powerful, strong, and very niche feed can really help you, like with filled with all of your experts and everything like that, can help you kind of identify what you need to learn and like what all of the experts in this topic are saying about certain things. So it's really just diving into the topic and seeing all what everyone else is saying about it and what you need to focus on to be able to contribute to that conversation.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. No, I appreciate that. That's super helpful. I think, yeah, ChatGPT is an interesting one. I've definitely been using it to augment my own learning. I'm curious, like what hacks or like different techniques have you been using or exploring um, to try to like augment your own learning?
Yeah, so AP season is coming up. So I have been using ChatGPT as my study buddy, basically. Um, and I will I kind of ask it for all of the topics in AP literature that I would need to know, like what it covers. And basically, I do a few prompts and get it to curate a study guide for me. And from that study guide, I say, okay, ask me questions from the study guide, and give me a chance to answer them. And if I get them incorrect, guide me towards the correct answer. And from there, then I'll basically make sure that I've mastered the entire study guide that it's curated for me. And so it's just a nice, fun way to have a study guide available to you at all hours of the day.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I feel like in some ways it becomes like an equity piece, right? Because the student who maybe couldn't afford the AP prep class or the different study materials that are out there can suddenly have access to this tool, at least for now, for free. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's one interesting thing that's come
For
out of
sure.
this.
For sure. Completely.
So I have a question around, you had this amazing post on Twitter geared towards parents around the new set of life skills. Um, what are the new set of life skills that aren't taught in a standard school?
Um, well, I think at the moment, it's really, really important that parents help their kids learn AI and ChatGPT and how to work with it because I don't know if I put that in my post, but that is like my number one thing right now is that parents need to help their kids learn about AI and generative
So
AIs and how to
interesting.
use it to their advantage because the kids that are going to succeed, it doesn't matter what their grades are at this point because well obviously depending on what path you want to take, your grades and stuff can help, but being able to use generative AI to do crazy big projects is what can help kids move forward in their life because they can start a business in a weekend or like create a YouTube channel and have chat or have these AIs make videos for them. Or there's so many things that generative AI can do for kids at this point that can absolutely change their lives. The kids that are going to succeed in the future are the kids that know how to use generative AI and know how to use AI to help them move forward. So at the moment, right now, that is by far my number one in the skills that kids need to learn. And obviously, there's a lot of nuances with generative AIs and like actually like showing you're learning instead of just using an AI to do it. But I think it's absolutely paramount that kids today learn how to use generative AIs. Um, so yeah, that's currently my number one for sure.
Like we see this phrasing that soft skills have become hard skills, right? Like the
Mhm.
ability to collaborate, to work in teams,
Oh yeah.
to reflect, to be mindful. Um, how have you seen that kind of play out with your fellow teenagers? Right. Sorry, I feel like a Reddit subreddit. Your
Mhm.
fellow teens. Like how have you seen these kind of soft skills become important, or are they important?
Yeah, they definitely are. Um, since I go to such a weird school, basically it's really small too, so basically nothing is more important at this school than having um, being able to work with the people around you. Collaboration, especially. Everyone at Alpha is all the high schoolers are working towards a masterpiece, and so that's like it's an Olympic level project that will like it basically will compare you to an Olympian by the time you graduate. And so they're really hard. It basically they seem impossible. They seem like they can't be done. And so um, what we found is that if we work together and help like support each other through our projects and kind of have a community of people who are working towards these really hard projects, we actually make a lot more progress together and um, kind of like combined than we would separately. And so being able to communicate, having leadership, teamwork skills are basically the most important thing for masterpieces. Being able to like help your friends cold call, cold DM, reach out to people. And most important thing, it's insane being able to communicate online, helping each other with our Twitter posts, our social media posts, helping each other find other people that um, find other experts that we might happen to know through family or friends that can support each other's projects. And so it's really just a community of people who are working towards being great and being these like these leaders in a community, but there's so many skills that you have to learn kind of that's underneath that. And so that we are learning together and we're growing together. And I think that that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, and you must be an amazing resource for your classmates, at least in terms of social media. I mean,
Yeah.
I think many could consider you an expert in this space. I mean, I would consider you an expert, definitely beyond my level. I mean, with thousands of Twitter followers, and I was looking tens of thousands of tweet impressions. Um, I'm curious, how did that journey begin for you? What was I mean, you gave a little bit of an introduction to that, but kind of what was that origin story? And I'm curious how you were able to build those skills. Like, did you have like a Twitter following prior to that on another channel or other social media that allowed you to translate those skills? Or was that like a journey of discovery for you building that channel?
My Twitter journey has been very up and down. So I started my newsletter a year ago. on my birthday, my 16th birthday, and I was loving just writing the newsletter, kind of hiding in my corner and just doing it all by myself. And I wasn't really growing on my newsletter, but I had a few followers. I had a few subscribers. And my all basically we had a requirement at school to start posting on Twitter, but I was really scared to do it. I did not want to post. I felt like it was like posting would like I had built up all of these scenarios about how posting felt like one thing would like ruin my life. It was very dramatic. It was very, very dramatic. But then I kept hearing about how literally your first posts, no one's going to see them. Literally, no one is going to see your first posts. And so if you just start, and you can get those first bad posts out of the way, no one's going to look at them. And then as you get better, if you post more, you'll get better at posting and you'll have all these new experiences. And then when your posts they do reach that really good level, then that's when they go viral. And so, anyways, I heard that, but it didn't really click in my brain. I was like, no, it's going to ruin my life if I post once. And um, then I basically one of my lovely guides, basically teachers, but not really at my school. She sat me down and was like, if you actually want to grow your newsletter, if you actually want to reach your masterpiece goals, you're going to have to start posting on Twitter. And so just get it out of the way and be done and start now. And it was kind of a wake up call. And so I did my first thread. No idea what I was doing, just kind of did something. I took my first newsletter, and I basically reformatted it into a thread and posted it on Twitter. And it was very, very scary. But it turns out that everyone was right. Your first post, nothing happens with it. And so I realized that, okay, it's okay. My life won't end. And I kept moving on. And I eventually got my first hate comments. And, I had to learn how to deal with those. I I didn't know exactly how to write on Twitter. I still don't know exactly how to write on Twitter, but I take the things from my newsletters and condense them down to like the core, the very big lesson that I want people to learn. And I started having to DM people and give my content to them. Very, very terrifying. Absolutely, absolutely terrifying. But I am an intern with David Perel at Rite of Passage, and which is he is like 400,000 Twitter followers, and
Wow.
I am making an online course I'm helping him with his online writing course, and so I kind of had that connection because of my writing. And so eventually I was able to connect with him and get him to retweet my stuff. And very scary asking him for something. I was so scared. And anyways, it just turned into a habit of doing it. And I realized, okay, even if they don't respond, okay, so what? They didn't respond to my DM. And it was this very, very up and down, scary journey of learning how to post on Twitter and growing that account and learning what people actually want to read on Twitter. So, I definitely didn't know anything before. I didn't really have any followers. I started at 0 and worked my way up. But basically, the lesson I learned is that you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be very scared to do something if you want to actually have an impact on what you do, if you want to really grow. And so that's kind of my Twitter journey, at least.
I love it. It reminds me of like James Clear's book Atomic
Mhm.
Habits, right?
Yeah,
You build something in and you build that muscle memory and you grow.
yeah.
We're obsessed with documentation. And as an educator, forgive my TED Talk language, my like theory of change is that um, evidence begets documentation, documentation begets transparency, transparency begets trust, and trust allows for really cool things to happen in education. Like when we actually see visible evidence of skills that you were talking about before. How do we get youth to document their process and who they are? How do we get them to show all these magical moments that usually go unseen, that are never captured in a GPA, that are never captured in an AP course or an SAT?
So this is, I think that it comes down to one very simple habit, and that's just writing. Because I think that the very best way to capture all those moments is to write them down. And kids, especially, everyone loves to help kids. They can share their journey online, and or if they don't feel comfortable doing that, even just writing it down and having kind of a collection of all of their achievements, it can build their confidence. It can show them what they're capable of, and it can help other people if they read it just learn who that person is. And it all starts with writing it down. And one of my very best friends, she started keeping a diary, I think 2-ish years ago. And now whenever she, like has a moment before she goes to bed, she can look at all of the journals from the past 2 years. And she can say, on this day, 2 years ago, I was I was not feeling confident in my IPs. I was struggling a bit. I was very, very stressed and I didn't know what I was doing. And she can compare that to how she's feeling now. And like if she is struggling about APs, she can say, "Oh, well, I got through it before. I got through it before, so I can get through it again." Or if she's actually feeling really confident, then she can say, "Oh, I've grown so much." And so I think it really starts with just writing it down. And the writing habit, the writing skill, it grows just based on how much you write. And it's just consistency and habit, basically, for learning how to write. And I actually believe that there's a lot of science behind writing. I wrote a whole newsletter about it. But so even the kids, like the math focused STEM kids who don't think that they can write, that's just not true. And they can see that through when they start writing every day. They can see the logic and the patterns in their writing as time goes on. And so I think that just starting to write things down is kind of the best way to do it, and having the kid write it down instead of an adult do it, because they're the only ones that can actually capture the experience that they're having. And so doing like a daily reflection at the end of every day, or a daily plan, or something like that. It can take 5 minutes, less than. Have it take 2 minutes, Just say one thing I'm proud of that I did today, one thing I want to work on tomorrow, and how I'm feeling. Just literally do that. And then as time goes on, they'll get more comfortable. They can start writing more. They can start adding in like weekly reflections and all of these kind of project markers. And then as even more time passes, they can kind of compile everything together and start feeling comfortable to share their journey with other people. So I think that that's kind of what I think is the best way for the documentation.
No, I love it. I mean, like you talked about before, it becomes a superpower. It gets built into the
Yeah.
daily habit, the weekly habit. And the hardest thing to do in my journey as an educator is teach project management, because it has to be lived. It can't be taught. And it doesn't matter like if you're talking about waterfall versus agile project management or whatever technical term we're throwing at teenagers, like it really has to be understood through action. And so that daily, weekly getting in the reps, idea, I think is totally
Yeah.
spot on. There's this term, it's also overused, flow state. I don't know if you've heard it
Yeah.
before. Um,
Yeah.
where have you found your kind of organic moments where you're in a flow state? Is it in your work at Austin Scholar? Is it in other elements of your life? Where have you felt like this isn't school? This is me growing. This is me figuring out who I am.
Um, Definitely when I'm writing my newsletter, complete like time passes like that. Next thing I know, 2 hours have passed by. and I've written an article already. But I think the number one thing that helps me at least get into the flow state is enjoying what I'm doing. And so I have this little trick where I have this one playlist, and I whenever I put in my headphones and start the playlist, then I know, oh my God, I'm working now. The very first song on that playlist means that I'm going to start working, and I'm going to get into the flow state right now. And it's going to happen because I like all the songs on there. And so I'm just like, let's do it. Let's work. And, as it makes me have fun while I'm doing my project, my learning, just because I'm listening to music that I love, and then it kind of translates that enjoyment translates to um, the actual project itself. And so it's more about the environment that I feel, and like having water next to me so I don't have to get up, or and things like that, throwing my phone across the room, doing all those little things is really what, and having just like being in the moment is really what that flow state and that like kind of discovery is about for me. It's not as much the one thing I'm working on, it's how I'm working on it, kind
So you've had an opportunity, via Twitter, via a Substack newsletter, via some other podcasts, to be able to show parents, show administrators, show students what's possible in education and learning, from AI to the soft skills that have become key to kind of succeeding post college. What is your call to action? What is your clarion call to action for all of us, in order to actually make school joyful for students?
of. The number one thing that I recommend to any parent, to any person who wants to help education, be like improve education, is to talk to kids. Um, have a conversation with them. Don't talk at them. Actually try and understand how they're feeling, what they want, and what would make them feel successful. And genuinely having I think what a lot of adults don't realize is it's really easy for kids to feel talked at instead of talked with. And I think that it like being able to genuinely have a conversation, listen to what the kid is saying, and like weave that into their future actions is the most transformative thing any kid can experience. When the second my parents started listening to me instead of talking at me, talking with me, and instead of instructing me, I my relationship with them absolutely changed. We have the best relationship now. And B, I felt more supported and like I could be more successful because I have their support and I know that they're going to listen to me and what I want. And obviously I am a kid. I'm a teenager. I don't know everything. Sometimes I don't take the full picture into account because I don't know what the full view is. But at least acknowledging what I feel and saying that that is valid, and I understand the problems, the processes, all of these things, and how can we make it better so that you can be more successful. That's just opening that conversation, at least building that habit with kids to get them to talk to you, about how they want to like facilitate their own learning, I think is the best thing. And if you want to learn more about that, you can subscribe to my newsletter where I talk about that every week. But I think in general, just opening that conversation.
I love that. And I'd love to do another podcast where we just hone in on that one specific topic about how we shift that conversation and have it truly be
Yeah.
a conversation. I love that. I have a 6 and 10-year-old. I'm with my 10 year or 6-year-old now who just had a tantrum in the other room. And like for him, when there's a conversation and he feels like he has agency in that conversation, not only is his behavior, but he's just a happier person than if I'm just repeating the same thing 27 times, to
Yeah.
get that other result. So no, that deeply resonates with me as someone in a much earlier journey in his own parenting. This has been amazing. Jack, any closing, kind of questions?
No, nothing that'll send us down the rabbit hole. But I mean, I just want to express that I'm inspired by
100%.
not only your journey but your work. I mean, the level of professionalism is like far beyond what I'm able to achieve right now, and so it's a sort of like growth goal for me to try to aspire towards your level. So, I mean, just
Thank you.
congratulations on the work you've done so far. I have no doubt that these skills that you're building are going to take you really far.
Yeah,
Thank you
our
so
goal is just
much.
to make you our boss at some point, right? Like, come join us at Unruler, when you turn 18, and then you can guide us in our own processes. Where can everyone find you? Where can they find you on
Yeah.
Twitter? How can they sign up for your Substack?
Yeah, so I am at Austin Scholar on Twitter, and I am at austinscholar.substack.com. I have a weekly newsletter, um, and every single week I write about education, mental health, and life skills. I share my journey and actionable steps on how parents or other educators can help kids thrive. And I share other sources for how parents can find help or guidance. And I am overall just just a 17-year-old trying to help education.